Winning Blueprint presents.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Friday, week 17, bittersweet for me. Because when you say week 17, it means it's the last week of the regular season. And I'm a football fan through and through, so this means it's coming near the end. There's still postseason play, so there's still football yet left to be played. But you know the end is near. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And in this case, it's a train. It's going to smack you smack dab in the face. And there'll be no more football. There'll be no more football for 6 months. And so all you'll have is the draft and free agency and a lot of talk to get you through until the next fix. And that's basically what it is. You need your football fix. And it'll be gone. And I'll be here lamenting another season that has passed and looking to fill my Sundays that'll be void of football. And so it's bittersweet for me. Happy to see another season come down to the wire, watch teams struggle, find out who our new Super Bowl champion will be. Happy to see all those things transpire. But sad to see the game go because there's nothing like football. And you know I'm a fan through and through. This is what I do. And so it's bittersweet when I get to week 17 because I know half of the league, a little bit over half of the league, won't be playing next Sunday. And so it's huge. This is it. This is it. The waiting is over. This is it. This is it. Week 17. You're not going to the playoffs? This is it. You're trying to make it to the playoffs? This is it. You're going to the playoffs? Then this isn't it. But for those who don't know, this is it. For those who won't go, this is it. So let's get to week 17. Give you the picks. Tell you who's going to win. Not getting into scores. Again, press for time. Just going to give you winners. Give you the Pick'em Weekly. Get out of here. So, without any further ado, let's get into the Pick'em Weekly and tell you who will win these games in Week 17 of the National Football League season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Atlanta to play the NFC winning Atlanta Falcons. They've won the NFC in terms of the number one seed. And so they've wrapped up anything worth having in the NFC. They have nothing to play for in this game. And this is a nightmare for anyone in a football pool. This is a nightmare for someone like myself who's picking the game. Because I haven't heard any reports of what the Falcons are going to do in this game. If you're the Falcons, though, Matt Ryan doesn't play 4 quarters. Roddy White doesn't play 4 quarters. Roddy White was banged up and was a question mark coming into the Detroit Lions game a week ago. He's probably not even going to play in this game. Julio Jones, pretty sure he's dealing with a few nagging injuries. He could use a week or 2 off. In this case, it'll be 2 weeks off if he doesn't play this week. You'd be hard-pressed to find the Falcons playing all of their starters in this game, which means you're going to get a slew of backups. This will look much like a preseason game for the Falcons. Even if the starters play, they won't play the whole game. And so you got to know Tampa Bay is going to have a legitimate shot at winning this game. And that's who I think will win. Just from the simple fact that the Falcons have nothing to play for. There's nothing at stake here for them. They just need to stay in tune. They want to stay in sync. So they'll probably play their players maybe a quarter or two, take them out, and then they'll let their backups, McCown and all of those guys, get in the game and At that point, Tampa Bay needs to win this football game. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you've had a solid season. You've struggled down the stretch. You need to end this season with a win. And the easiest way to do that is to beat this Falcons team who has absolutely nothing to play for. I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Atlanta and getting a win because they played this Atlanta Falcons team tough in Tampa Bay just a month ago. Weren't able to beat them, lost a game, but they hung tough with them. Now they'll get some backups in this game. If Josh Freeman doesn't turn it over 4 times like he's done in the last 2 weeks, they'll probably win this game. And I have Tampa Bay getting the job done in this game, getting to 7-9 on the season. Meanwhile, the Falcons, who have absolutely nothing to play for, will drop to 13-3 on the season. But it doesn't matter. They're your NFC #1 seed. They get the first round bye, and they get home field throughout. So it doesn't matter at all to this Atlanta Falcons team. You look at the next game up on the slate. The New York Jets are traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Family business between 2 bad teams. Buffalo Bills, New York Jets. Bills are at home, so I'm taking the Bills. Really simple. Not a lot to talk about here. The Jets have been a train wreck. They're going back to Mark Sanchez. Good for them. They are going to lose this game to the Buffalo Bills, who I think will look different next year. I think C.J. Spiller is your starting running back next year. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is not your opening day starter next year. I'm not sure if Chan Gailey will be your head coach next year. There will be changes in Buffalo next season, and I think they'll be for the best. This team needs some sort of a makeover. Not a huge change, but just subtle changes that will help them take that next step in the AFC East. They'll win this game, finish up the season 6-10. Meanwhile, the Jets will lose this game, and they'll finish up the season 6-10. And they'll probably be a different team as well. Don't know if Rex Ryan will be around. Don't know if Mike Tannenbaum will be around. Don't know if they need to be around. This quarterback situation, totally different. Mark Sanchez might not be around. Tim Tebow won't be around. This will be a different team as well next season. Bills will get the win, go to 6-10. Jets will lose the game, they'll go to 6-10 as well. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. Another game between 2 divisional foes that are bad. Tennessee Titans are hosting this game. Jacksonville is on the road. So ideally, you go with the home team. That's the smart thing to do. When it's 2 bad teams, you just pick the team that's at home. I just did it in the game that I talked about with the Bills. I'm doing it here with the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are at home. And honestly, I think the Titans are the better team. Chris Johnson and this Titans offense will do just enough to win in this game. Jacksonville has been a train wreck on offense all season long. Their one glimmer of hope on offense has been the emergence of Cecil Shorts III. I like this guy. I like him a lot. And unless he has a stellar game with at least 2 touchdowns, they don't stand a chance in this game. Tennessee will win this game. They'll go to 6-10 on the season with the Tennessee Titans. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars will finish up the season at a morbid 2-14. They need a quarterback. Blaine Gabbert is there, and they probably won't select a quarterback in the draft, at least not with their first round pick. They need a quarterback, though. They need a quarterback. Trust me. They need a quarterback. You look at the next matchup. The Cleveland Browns are heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Normally, they'd be getting ready for the playoffs. They'd be gearing up, going down the stretch, trying to win a game in the late stages of the season to secure a playoff spot or to win a division. None of those things are occurring in Week 17 in the 2012 season. That's because the Steelers have already been eliminated from playoff contention, and they have no one to blame but themselves. So, in essence, this game is a closeout game for the Steelers. Put a bow on this season, move on. They have the Cleveland Browns in front of them, a team that beat them already this season. The Browns are really banged up. They're starting some unknown quarterback, and they're starting Montario Hardesty at running back. Translation, they're going to lose in this game. They should be happy, though. They've won 5 games this season, about 2, maybe 3 more than I had them winning this season, 2 or 3 more than a lot of you had them winning this season, and they found themselves a quarterback, and they're a young team with a lot of talent. So be happy. And you beat the Steelers this season. Hey, how about that? So you've had a successful season by your standards. Something you can build off of. But you won't win this game. Steelers will get this one. They'll go to 8-8 on the season. Meanwhile, the Browns will lose this game, go to 5-11. And look at that 5-11 mark as a step in the right direction. Next year, you need to build off of that and finish better than 5-11. Let's see if you can do that. Next game on the slate, Chicago Bears traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Huge game. One of the first that we've talked about in Week 17 with playoff implications. This one is mammoth because if the Bears don't have it, they don't have a shot. Now, I actually think the Bears could lose in this game because they don't score enough points offensively. We've talked about it on this very program several times. We've dedicated a segment to these Bears about their offensive woes and their struggles all season long, putting points on the scoreboard. This is the one game it can actually come back to haunt them because Detroit can score points. They don't always score points, but they can score points. And if the Bears don't get turnovers, if they're not aided by the Detroit Lions in any way in this game, I think the Bears will actually lose this game. But the Lions are a 4-win team for a reason. That's because they aid other teams in scoring points. They are a bad team. They do self-destruct. And I see them doing that one final time in this season, losing this game to the Bears, dropping to 4-12. Bears get the win, go to 10-6, and then they have to play the waiting game. But trust me, if the Bears don't get turnovers from Matthew Stafford and that Lions offense, they don't get turnovers from the special teams, they don't get a big play from their own special teams, if their defense doesn't score at least one touchdown in this game, they'll fail to score 20 and they'll probably lose this game. But if they get some help, which they probably will because the Lions aren't a good team, and that's what they do, they help other teams beat them, they'll probably lose this game, and I see the Lions doing that. I see the Lions finding a way to lose this game. However, in this game, let's hope Calvin Johnson eclipses 2,000 yards receiving. How mind-boggling is that? That's so incomprehensible. I can't even begin to describe what I just said. 2,000 yards receiving in one season. For some guys, that's a career. For good players, that's 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons. For some of them out there. We're talking about 1 year, 2,000 yards. Do you understand what I just said? I don't think you do. I don't think you really understand how huge of an accomplishment that would be. He's already shattered. He's already smashed Jerry Rice's record. Now he's going for the big 2-0-0-0. He'll be in a club all by his lonesome. And trust me, if he gets there, I don't see anyone joining him ever. Ever. That's how rare this is. This is how rarefied this air is for Calvin Johnson. But other than that, there's nothing for the Lions to really lay claim to in this game. They can pull the Bears down with them. They'd love to do that, but I don't see them doing it. Bears win this game. They go to 10-6. Lions lose this game. They go to 4-12. And the Bears just have to wait and see if they can get into the postseason. So your next game on the slate, another game with playoff implications. This time, not so much of getting in as it is just seeding. You have the Houston Texans traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Both of these teams are already in the postseason. The Colts, they're locked into the 5 seed in the AFC. So they really don't have much to play for, but they're going to play because they're not a good enough team to start resting people. They need to go into the postseason with as much momentum as possible. So they got to play to win. They've got Chuck Pagano back on the sidelines for the first time since the first month of the season and so. They're going to want to win for Chuck Pagano. They're going to want to win. This one's for Chuck. So expect them to play their hardest and play to win. On the other side of the field, the Houston Texans come into this game, and they need this one. They need this one, if for nothing else, for their psyche. One, they need this win, if for nothing else, to assure themselves of the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs. They need to be home. They need to have a first-round bye, and they need to have home field throughout. They need it, more so than any other team in the AFC. They got to have it. And so, if for nothing else, they need it for that. And really, they need it for their psyche in terms of winning. They were destroyed at home last week. They were systematically taken apart by the Minnesota Vikings at home a week ago. They need to win this game just to say to themselves, we are the team that we think that we are. They lose 2 straight going into the postseason. They end up with the number 3 seed. They're losing their first round game. And they don't want to play Cincinnati. You don't want to play Cincinnati in wild card weekend. You don't want to do it. So they need to win. And as much as I think that Indianapolis can actually beat them at home, I think the Texans know what's at stake here. I think they know what they have to do, and they'll go and get it done. I think they'll win this game, but it would not shock me if they lost. But I think they'll win. They know what they have to do. They know what's at stake here. They didn't work this hard this season to have it all crumble right before them in Week 17. You don't go wire to wire as the best team in that conference to have it all fall to shambles in Week 17. They'll get it done. They'll win. They'll go to 13-3 on the season. Get that number 1 seed. Solidify home field throughout in the AFC playoffs and get that first round bye. Meanwhile, the Colts, they have nothing to play for in this game, really. But except pride. They'll play with it. They'll try to win, but I think they'll fall short. They'll go to 10-6. They're the 5 seed. They have nothing to worry about. Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Huge matchup. If the Redskins and Cowboys are 1A, this is 1B in terms of importance in Week 17. Doesn't get much bigger than this. Minnesota Vikings, they got to win to get in the postseason. Win, and you're in. You've played hard all season long for this one chance to give yourself a shot to make it to the postseason. This is what you asked for, a chance to go to the postseason. You're at home. Division rival staring you in the eyes. Green Bay Packers coming to Mall of America Field, trying to deny you the one thing you worked all season for, a chance to hoist that Lombardi trophy. Gotta win. Packers, they need this game just as bad as the Vikings do. Now, not as bad because the Packers are already in the playoffs. They're a country club team right now. The Vikings are the blue-collar worker. They just won in. The Packers are up at a country club, sipping lemonade, feet up on the table. They want to go out and play tennis next week. They want a bye week. So they're playing for a luxury here. They don't want to play a wild card weekend. They want to be the 2 seed. They want an opportunity to rest some guys, to get some guys healthy for their playoff run. So they're playing for a bye week. They lose this game, San Francisco wins, and San Francisco will win. We'll talk about that here in a second. San Francisco will win. They'll be the 3 seed if they lose this game. So the Packers know they have to win to ensure themselves of a bye and the 2 seed in the NFC playoffs. So they're coming at you with everything they got. So if you're in Minnesota, you got to take care of business. Adrian Peterson has a chance to do something special. Something that I don't think any other back in the National Football League will have a chance to do. It's a reason why this record has stood for over 2 decades. And I don't see Adrian beating this record. I don't see him breaking his record because last week he needed to have 100 and something yards rushing. He only had 86. The Texans did their part to stop him from making history. He's not breaking ED's record. He's not breaking Eric Dickerson's record because he needs over 200 yards in this game. The Packers aren't giving it up again. They already gave up 200 yards rushing to Adrian Peterson in this season. They're not doing it again. They got Clay Matthews back this time. They've gotten healthier on defense. They're not giving up 200 yards in this game rushing to Adrian Peterson. They're just not going to do it. He might get them for 171 yards. He's not getting them for 222 yards, which would give him the record. Not happening. So, he's not breaking that record. But if he gets 171 yards and 2 touchdowns, they got a shot in this game. Christian Ponder is going to be the X factor, however. If he doesn't turn it over, if he's solid like he was last week against Houston, they got a shot to win this game. A very good shot. Because this Minnesota Vikings defense, they'll do enough to give them a chance in this game. Aaron Rodgers won't do what he did last week against Tennessee. He won't shred this Vikings defense. This will be a close game, and the Vikings will have a chance to win if they don't implode, if they don't self-destruct. And I'm really just talking to Christian Ponder. Really just talking to one player. If he does his job and does it adequately, they'll have a shot. But I just don't trust the Minnesota Vikings. I really want to pick them. I really do, because a team with their back against the wall like the Vikings are, They're dangerous. And the Vikings have been a really good team this season. I think a lot of people haven't given them enough credit. They've destroyed the San Francisco 49ers. They've destroyed the Houston Texans. Two of the better teams in the National Football League. They've destroyed both of those teams, systematically taking them apart, piece by piece by piece by piece. And so those were two of the most impressive wins of the season. So they can beat a Green Bay Packers team that's one of the best teams in the National Football League. They have no problem doing it. But I just don't trust Christian Ponder. I just don't trust him. He has to earn my trust, and right now he does not have it. And so I got to give the nod to Green Bay. Because Aaron Rodgers is playing MVP-like football again. And so I can't go against Aaron Rodgers in a game that they know that they need if they want to buy, if they want to be the second seed in the NFC playoffs. They need this game, and I just can't pick the Vikings led by Christian Ponder. I just can't do it. Vikings lose this game, just fall short of making the postseason at 9-7. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers get this one on the road. They go to 12-4 in the season, and they lock up that 2 seed in the NFC postseason. So the Miami Dolphins are wrapping up their season by traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. The Dolphins have nothing to be ashamed about. To finish this season at 7-9, with the talent or lack thereof that you have on that roster, nothing short of remarkable. For them to even win 6 games this season would have been a great feat. To win 7, I tip my imaginary cap to that coaching staff, Joe Philbin, and all those involved with the Dolphins. He's did one hell of a job with that roster because there's not a lot of talent on that roster. They've been accumulating stuff as the season goes along. They got Armand Benz off the street just a few weeks ago. They've been picking up other teams' trash and adding it to their collection of stuff. And I tell you what, they're building something out there. People are sleeping on Sean Smith. I don't know if enough people know about Cameron Wake. I don't know if people are really paying attention to what the Dolphins are doing. But I tell you what, they add a few pieces in the offseason, here and there, add a couple of pieces through the draft. I tell you what, this could be a dangerous team come next year in the AFC East. I tell you that much. But I said all that to say that they won't win this game. All that stuff that I just said, it's nice. It's been a good season for them. They have nothing to hang their heads about. They have had a successful season by their standards. But they won't get to 8-8. They won't get to 500 because they're not beating New England in New England. Simple as that. The Patriots still have an outside shot. It's a long shot. It's a long shot. But they still got an outside shot at getting the 1 seed. And so, winning would be the first part of that equation. And that's what they're going to do. Win. They're going to beat this Miami Dolphins team at home, go to 12-4 in the season, which will be good enough for at least third in the AFC postseason. If some things happen for them, it'll be good enough for first. All those things won't happen. But I tell you what, if they win, they could get as far as second. And that's a distinct possibility because Houston could lose. So I said all that to say this. Patriots will win, and they got a shot to move up in the AFC playoff standings. But they got to win, and they'll do just that against the Miami Dolphins in Week 17. Take their record to 12-4. Dolphins will fall to 7-9. Successful season for the Dolphins. They won't win here, but they have a lot to build on as they've had a successful season. Patriots will move on, go to the postseason, and potentially get a first-round bye pending other matchups in Week 17. You look at the next game, no playoff implications here. Carolina Panthers finishing up their season by traveling to New Orleans, who will also be putting a bow on their 2012 campaign. The Saints are a solid football team. And really, they started to play their best football at the wrong time. It's too late now. You want to play your best football in December, and for the most part, they are. They've had one stinker this month, and that was against the Giants 3 weeks ago. But since then, they've scored 75 points in 2 weeks, and their defense has really stepped up. Their defense was the worst defense in the league for much of the season. But of late, they've stepped up. They blanked Tampa Bay 2 weeks ago. Last week, they went to Dallas and really played good defense, except for in the fourth quarter against a good Dallas Cowboys offense. And so the Saints are playing some of their best football of the season. Too little, too late. However, they can still finish 8-8 on the season. Still salvage this season, get to 500, and at least make this season look like it wasn't as bad as it really was. And so that's what I expect them to do. The Panthers have been playing better football of late, but they still got issues. Cam Newton needs to mature. He has to grow up. Not just on the football field, but mentally. He has to grow up. He's the face of the franchise, and he was penalized and docked $31,000 for his troubles and struggles at controlling himself last week against the Raiders. So he has some demons to fight. He has some issues to iron out, but he can take care of that in the offseason. He won't be able to get the win here on the field, get his team to 7-9 for the season, and stop the New Orleans Saints from getting to 500 because their defense just isn't good enough to stop Drew Brees and this offense. They'll go in, they'll put up a fight because it's family business. They know the Saints. They'll put up a fight, but at the end of the day, Drew Brees and this offense is starting to click. Again, wrong time, too late. However, they'll get it done in this game with Drew Brees and that New Orleans Saints offense. And this defense is playing tremendously better. They've taken huge, drastic steps to make this defense better. And a lot of it happened when Joe Vick took back over as the interim head coach. But again, too little, too late. They'll get the win. They'll go to 8-8, finish up this season. And who knows what the offseason holds for this New Orleans Saints franchise because Sean Payton is a free agent. They need to re-sign him. There are other teams, other suitors out there who want the services of Sean Payton. So we'll see what New Orleans does to retain the services of their unquestioned leader, Sean Payton, because you saw the effect that his loss had on this team. Him not being there as their head coach is probably the single reason this team is not going to the postseason. So we'll see what the offseason holds, but they'll finish up the season 8-8. Will the Saints? Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers will drop to 7-9, and some changes could be looming in Carolina. There's a new GM there, and when you get a new GM, there's usually a new head coach not too far thereafter. So Ron Rivera, he could be in a little bit of trouble. I highly doubt that he'll be back. I'll be very surprised if there's not a new head coach in Carolina come the 2013 season. So you look at the next matchup. This has playoff implications looming. This is one of those and a possible. You know how you're playing spades and you got 3 and a possible? This is that game. The Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to New York to take on the Giants in what will probably be Andy Reid's final game as Eagles head coach. We keep saying probably because you're not sure what the Banners will do in Philadelphia. I think Andy Reid's gone. Really think he's coached his last game in Philadelphia after this game, but that remains to be seen. Black Monday is looming. It is coming. We will see. But for the Giants, they're the possible in this game. They've got 8 wins on the season. They need 9 to have a shot at going to the postseason. They win, there's a possibility. That's the possible here. There's a possibility they can make it to the postseason. They need a lot of help. They need a lot of help. If this was spades, they need a lot of mismanaging of other hands by other players in the game. In this case, we're talking about the Bears. We're talking about the Vikings. They need the Bears and the Vikings. Not just the Bears, not just the Vikings. They need the Bears and the Vikings to lose this game. So they need a lot of help. So that possible, they need that to come to fruition, and they need to win first and foremost. They got a lifeless Eagles team in front of them. Now, I'll tell you what. Lifeless probably isn't the right word to describe this Eagles team. They've been playing hard for Andy Reid down the stretch. They're not like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not like the Oakland Raiders, one of these teams that you can definitely get a win off of. They got to go out and they got to play. This is family business, and the Eagles will be starting Michael Vick in this game. Dangerous Eagles team now. All of a sudden, you go from to whoa if you're the Giants, because you're getting Vick and you're getting Shady McCoy. A lethal combination at quarterback and running back. So the Giants have to strap it up, play some of their better football to get this win. They've been struggling down the stretch. Their defense leaves a lot left to be desired on the field every single week. And so the Eagles can exploit them offensively. Where the problem lies for the Eagles in this game is defensively. There's a lot of holes on that Eagles defense, especially in the secondary. Eli Manning should be able to carve them up and do enough to win this game. You can't trust a 4 or 5 win team this late in the season. We're in week 17. If you've only got 4 or 5 wins, that means you're a bad football team. And so the Eagles, by virtue of being a bad football team, will lose this game. So the Giants will win. They'll take care of their part. Now they need that possible to happen. Don't know if it's going to happen. Highly doubt that it happens. But it's a chance. There's a possibility. And if you're the Giants, that's all you can ask for because you've blown your opportunity to control your own destiny. So now you got to hope things work out in your favor. But they'll get the win. They'll do their job. Get to 9-7. Drop the Eagles to 4-12. Now you got to see if all those other things, all those other scenarios that you need to have happen so that you have a shot at defending your Super Bowl championship from a year ago. So you look at the next game on the slate. No playoff implications here. None to speak of. In fact, some really bad football will take place in this matchup between the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers. Expect change. That's what I look at with this game. Expect change. Don't know what's going to happen in Oakland. You never know what's going to happen in Oakland from season to season. But things will be different. This roster will be turned over like nobody's business at the end of this season. I've seen franchises try to turn their fortunes around. The Raiders are in the beginning of a rebuilding phase. Step 1 of a rebuilding phase, new GM, new head coach. Check, check. Step 2 of the rebuilding phase, clean up the cap, get rid of dead weight. That's what this offseason will be for the Oakland Raiders. A lot of dead weight on this roster, a lot of old veterans eating up a lot of salary cap that will be gone, and a lot of money that they need to free up to start going after coveted free agents in Oakland. They got to free up some books in Oakland. It's a lot of money tied up in some bad spots. A lot of this not the doing of this regime, but the last regime with Al Davis. Also, when you're looking to start over, start anew, rebuild from the ground up, you got to start building a foundation. And with that foundation, you need draft picks. They don't have them in Oakland right now. That's another thing that will start to happen as they move forward. So it'll be different in Oakland next year. You look at the other side of the field in San Diego, it's going to be drastically different. There will be no more North Turner. There will be no more A.J. Smith. They'll be gone. You'll have a new GM, you'll have a new head coach, and you will have a new franchise in front of you. The San Diego Chargers need a makeover desperately. This is the same sad San Diego team that we've seen since the good old days. With LaDainian Tomlinson, Vincent Jackson, Michael Turner, the burner, Darren Sproles. Those days are gone. But it's the same team. That's the problem. Those players have moved on. But it's the same team. And so they need to start over. Gates isn't the tight end that he once was. Vincent Jackson, no longer there. LaDainian Tomlinson, he's retired. Michael Turner, he's moved on. So has Darren Sproles. They've got the same mentality, the same coaches, the same philosophy in place. But that team has moved on. They need to start over. They need to blow this thing up and start anew. And that's what they'll do. They'll get rid of head coach North Turner. They'll get rid of GM A.J. Smith. They'll start over. This team will look different. The only thing that will probably be the same is Phillip Rivers will be your starting quarterback, and Antonio Gates will be your starting tight end. Everything else up for discussion in San Diego. But talking about this game here, Chargers are at home. That means they'll win. Raiders are a bad team, and they've packed it in for the season. Chargers will win this game. They'll go to 7-9 on the season. Raiders will lose this game. They'll finish up at 4-12. And let the changes begin for both of these franchises. They'll look different next season. You look at the next game on the slate, Kansas City Chiefs heading to Denver to take on the Broncos. Playoff implications in this game, but only for the reasons of seeding. Denver Broncos looking to nail down that number 2 spot in the AFC playoffs. A win will do just that. Not only will it nail down that number 2 spot, it gives them the opportunity to see if they can get the number 1 seed. And they'll already know by the time they start this game, because this is a 4 o'clock game, they'll already know if they'll be getting an opportunity to play for the first overall seed in the AFC playoffs. They'll already know because the Texans would have already completed their game by then. And so they'll know if Peyton Manning needs to only play the first half and then come out. So there's not a lot riding on this game if the Texans win. If they lose, then we have something on our hands. But look, I tell you what, even if the Texans win, that first round bye is still on the line, because if the Patriots win and the Broncos lose, Broncos don't get that first round bye. So no matter what the Texans do, this Broncos team needs to win. And guess who they're playing? If you ever need a win, if any team has ever needed a win in the 2012 season, who are you going to call? Kansas City Chiefs. That's who the Broncos are playing. They're going to win this game. Even if they tried not to win this game, they would win this game. Their quarterback situation is terrible for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to lose this game. This is another franchise that needs change. Let's hope Romeo Crennel is able to keep his job. Let's hope that they don't fire Scott Pioli. They don't fire Romeo Crennel. They give them one more chance. Just give them a quarterback. This is all I ask. Give them a quarterback. Give them a chance. With the talent that they have on this roster, if you just give them a quarterback. And again, if they get fired, there's no one to blame but themselves. They had Kyle Orton. They let him walk away. So they deserve whatever they get. If they get fired, they fired themselves by getting rid of Kyle Orton. They let Kyle Orton walk out of their facility. That was a 10-win team if Kyle Orton would have remained a Kansas City Chief. So I don't have any sympathy for them, but I would like to see them get another chance with a starting QB. Even if it's a rookie, I'd like to see them get a chance. If they can get Vic, that'd be great. Whatever. Just get them a starting quarterback. You do that, I'd love to see Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel get another shot. But in this game, doesn't matter. They're going to lose. They're going to be slaughtered. They're going to lose this game big. Denver will get this win, go to 13-3. Lock up the 2 seed for sure. Have a chance to get the 1 seed. Meanwhile, Kansas City will go to 2-14 on the season. And they could use the first overall pick in the draft because they need a quarterback. Some kind of bad. You look at the next matchup on the slate. Arizona Cardinals traveling to the San Francisco 49ers. Speaking of needing a quarterback in the worst way. Does anybody need a quarterback worse than the Arizona Cardinals? Anybody? I mean, there's some bad quarterback play in the league. Some teams that really need quarterbacks. The Jets. I just spoke about a team in the Chiefs that need a quarterback. No one needs a quarterback worse than the Arizona Cardinals. This was a playoff team this year. The way their defense plays, forces turnovers. This was a defense that could have went to the postseason this year. But man, is that offense horrendous. And the reason it's bad, no quarterback. They need a quarterback in the worst way. So they're going to lose this game. It's not going to be close. San Francisco needs to win this game in order to ensure them an opportunity to get back into the bye discussion in the NFC. A win here, coupled with the Green Bay loss, makes this San Francisco 49ers team your 2nd seed and a first round bye in the wild card weekend. So it's huge. They want this one. They got to have it. And guess what? They're going to get it because Arizona stinks offensively. So nothing to worry about for the 49ers. You'll win this game. The only question you have, and again, just like the Denver Broncos, you'll already know by the time your game starts. You'll already know if you're playing for the 2 seed or not. Because you're at 4 o'clock, the Green Bay Packers play at 1. So you'll already know what's at stake. Nonetheless, you need to win this game. The 49ers will do just that. They'll get the win. They'll go to 11-4-1 on the season. Meanwhile, this season couldn't be over fast enough for the Arizona Cardinals. They'll go to 5-11 let's hope Ken Wisenhunt doesn't get fired. He's a good head coach who just needs a quarterback. Unless he was one of the people in your war room, behind closed doors, screaming that I don't need any more quarterbacks. I'm fine with Kevin Kolb and John Skelton. Unless he was doing that, give that man another opportunity to coach this football team with a starting quarterback. You do that, I bet you he'll show you that he's worth the keep in Arizona. But if you fire him, you'll be making a huge mistake. That's the way I feel. Give him a shot, give him a quarterback, you'll see what you have. He'll pay dividends for you. But the Cardinals lose this game, go to 4-12 on the season. St. Louis Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. Successful season for the St. Louis Rams. They really overachieved. Much like the Dolphins, who saw this team winning 7 games when the season started? This was a 5-win team at best because you had to know Jeff Fisher was going to add at least 2 to 3 wins on the total by himself just by being the coach of this team. They were going to win at least 2 or 3 games. That's how good of a coach Jeff Fisher is. So you already knew right away that this 2-win team from a season ago was going to win at least 4, maybe 5 games just because Jeff Fisher was the head coach. But 7? That was a reach. That was a stretch. But they've won 7 games, have a shot to win 8. They're playing good football. They're getting the most out of their offense. I don't think they can get any more out of the offense than they've gotten this season. This is a sporadic offense. They're up, they're down. You don't know what you're getting. But that's what this offense is for the St. Louis Rams. Defensively is where they've won football games. They've held some really good teams down, and they've played with some good teams in this league for 3 quarters before losing games. They've played well defensively all season long. That's the reason why they have 7 wins. Defensively, they've gotten it done. And if they're going to have a shot in this game, their defense is going to have to step up. I don't see it happening, though. No team has won in Seattle other than Seattle this season. Tough place to go and get a victory. So I don't see the St. Louis Rams being that team to actually put a blemish on that perfect home record for the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are flying high, literally flying high into the postseason. I don't see the St. Louis Rams slowing them down and shooting them out of the air going into the postseason. This Seattle Seahawks team has been playing exceptionally good football, especially offensively. They're going to continue to do that, win this game, go into the postseason on a 5-game winning streak, finish up the season at 11-5. And they got an outside shot. Now, this is the longest of long shots to win this division because they need Arizona to go to San Francisco and win this game. San Francisco 49ers are not going to allow the Arizona Cardinals to come into San Francisco with no quarterback and win. Just isn't going to happen. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers have 2 quarterbacks capable of beating this Arizona Cardinals team. So it's not going to happen. So I said that to say that the Seattle Seahawks will win this game, go into the postseason on a 5-game winning streak, as they will dispose of the St. Louis Rams, get the win, go to 11-5. They are your 5 seed in the NFC playoffs. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Rams, great season. To finish this season 7-8-1, you don't have anything to be ashamed of. This is a remarkable season and a start of something big in St. Louis. Again, a lot of things need to go on in the offseason to help bolster what you've already done in this season. This was a building block. And on top of this block, you need to continue to build on the future. It starts with Sam Bradford and Jeff Fisher. But if you can continue to add pieces in the offseason, there's some things that this Rams team needs. Steven Jackson is getting up there in age. You're going to need to stockpile that running back position. Sam Bradford could use some more targets out wide. Danny Amendola is nice. Austin Pettis is nice. They drafted some receivers last year. Let's see if they can start to become better options next year. They drafted Brian Quick. They drafted the receiver out of Wake Forest, Givens. So they have options at receiver. Let's see if they become bona fide options for this Rams offense. They got Kendricks at tight end. They got some stuff. They got some tools. Defensively, They're building something, but they need more help. They could use help along that offensive line. They could use some help in other areas. So let's see if the Rams can do what it takes to take the next step in the offseason and become a team that can compete in the NFC West with the likes of the Seahawks and the 49ers. But this is a start. 7-8-1. Great season by the St. Louis Rams. But they won't get this win in Seattle, as the Seahawks will go to 11-5 and fly high into the postseason. So we find ourselves on Sunday Night Football in the biggest matchup of Week 17. Cowboys, Redskins. NFC East, division crown on the line. Doesn't get any bigger than this. Does not get any bigger than this. Now, I won't go into in-depth details because that's what the Redskins report is for. But I will say this is going to be a barn burner. And I will leave it at that. That is how you need to. That is how you will wrap up your Week 17 in the National Football League. That's how the regular season will wind down with a classic Cowboys and Redskins. Cowboys and Indians. Didn't get much better than that. A rivalry renewed. That's what I'm going to call that game. This one means a lot. This is for it all in the NFC East. And just so you know, the Redskins are going to win. But that's a touchdown. Throw it up. Going to tack on this quick extra point. Now, this is it. What I'm going to do at the end of the season for every team in the National Football League is have a follow-up, a lab follow-up. Remember, before the season started, we did lab reports. Now we're going to do follow-up lab reports on every single team in the National Football League. At least all of those who didn't make the postseason. So we'll talk about the state of their franchise moving forward, what will happen in the offseason, what needs to happen in the offseason, what happened in the 2012 season, and what's going to happen moving forward. And so be on the lookout for that as I tackle all 20 teams that didn't make the postseason in 2012 and give them a lab follow-up as we put a bow on their 2012 seasons. So be on the lookout for those coming up to a computer screen, tablet, cell phone, mobile device to you. So that's it for this program. It's been a blast doing In the Lab Room this season. I've had so much fun doing this. I love it. I absolutely, genuinely love doing this. It's been fun, and I look to finish up the season strong, just the way I started it. And I'll bring you my numbers for the season in the Pick'em Weekly because, again, I'll put my numbers up against anybody. I think I've had a great season this year. Had a couple of brutal weeks, but I think a lot of people can say they've had some brutal weeks this season. There's been some weeks where you just didn't know what to expect. But through and through of it all, I've been able to get it done most weeks. And so feel confident about what I've put forth this week as well. And so we'll see. But I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being my audience in the lab room for the majority of this season. And you know all the ways to contact the show. I've been saying it for it seems like an eternity this year. Everything is In the Lab Room predicated. You're on YouTube. Type in Louis T as the page. You'll find it. Every video that I've ever done will pop up. Have at it. You can go back as far as the beginning of the show and check out the lab reports for every team and check out what I said before the season started and see how I did in terms of my prognostication for teams on the season. One of my biggest picks, one of the ones I'm most proud of, is the fact that I said the Giants weren't going to make the postseason. Now, I had the wrong team winning the division. I said the Eagles were going to win the division. But make no mistake about it, I got the right team not making it, and that was the Giants. And so that's really gaudy to say that the defending Super Bowl champions won't make the playoffs. But their schedule was just so tough. I couldn't see them making it. So go back, check out the lab reports, see how I did in terms of me guessing what teams would make it to the postseason, which ones wouldn't. And I was way off on some teams. I was way off on the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought they were going to be terrible this year. They're in the postseason. I thought the Jets were going to make the postseason. They were a train wreck. So I've had my fair share of being right, and trust me, I was wrong on some picks. So I'll be anxious to take a look at it myself. But that'll do it for this program. I thank you for joining me in the lab room. It's been fun. Want to see you back here because I'm not done. There's still a lot of football left this season, and you'll see this face many more times. So want to see you back here, same time, same place, and as always, enjoy the football. Suck it up because I've been saying it all season long. I said that this point was going to come. There was going to be a point in the season where there won't be any more football. And that point is coming. It's going to be here shortly. So enjoy this football. Relish it because it'll be gone before you know it. But take care. Enjoy the football. See you next week.
Mm-hmm.